My wife texted from her parents' house. "I'm not coming home until you buy me a new SUV," I replied. My wife's text arrived from her parents' house like a crack splitting through glass. "I'm not coming home until you buy me a new SUV." I stared at the screen, reading the words until they blurred. Then I typed back one word. Understood. Within the hour, I downgraded her phone and canceled her subscriptions. 72 hours later, her father was on the line, negotiating her surrender. I'm 38, an architect by trade and temperament. My entire profession rests on one immovable truth. A structure is only as strong as its foundation. For 8 years, I believed my marriage to Jennifer had that strength, that our foundation was poured from shared dreams and mutual respect. Now I see it was just loose soil where her entitlement took root and spread. The first crack appeared during a conversation about our car, a 5-year-old sedan that ran perfectly well. For Jennifer, it had become something else entirely, proof of our inadequacy. Her friends were climbing into gleaming SUVs, and she was being left behind in the driveway. I tried to explain, calmly, that a $70,000 vehicle would shatter our 5-year plan, the one we'd blueprinted together, saving for the land where I'd design and build our forever home. Her response was a week of cold silence, broken only by pointed sighs during luxury car commercials. Last weekend, she drove to her parents' house. Robert and Barbara. A routine visit, I thought, until Sunday night when that message lit up my phone. Jennifer, I'm not coming home until you buy me a new SUV. I've earned it. My parents agree. Don't call me until you're at the dealership. I read it a dozen times, each word settling heavier than the last. The audacity of it. The transactional coldness. The casual deployment of her parents as emotional artillery. This wasn't a request. It was a hostile takeover, a unilateral rewriting of our vows. Every nerve screamed at me to call, to demand answers, to rage. But I'm an architect. I don't swing sledgehammers when surgical precision is required. Rage is chaos. A methodical response is structure. I typed one word and pressed send. Understood. Then I opened my laptop and began drafting a new set of plans. First, the luxuries she'd grown accustomed to. Our credit card statement read like a map of her lifestyle, a lifestyle I'd been funding almost entirely. I logged into the 3 subscription services under my name: the curated clothing box, the gourmet meal kit, the premium wine club. Canceled. There were other charges too, smaller recurring payments scattered across the statement. Canceling them one by one would take hours. So I took a more efficient route. I reported the card as lost and requested a new one with a new number. Within 48 hours, every recurring charge would fail. Next, the digital lifeline. Our mobile plan was top tier, registered in my name. I downgraded her line to the most basic option available. Talk and text only. No unlimited data, no hotspot. Enough to call for help. Not enough to scroll endlessly through the curated lives of people she envied. Then I changed the passwords to all 5 streaming accounts we shared. This wasn't pettiness. It was implementing consequences that mirrored her choice. She had declared herself a non-participant in our partnership until her demands were met. Fine. I was simply adjusting the resource allocation to reflect her new status. The house felt different in the silence that followed. Walking past her office, I saw the drawings for our dream home still pinned to the corkboard. The careful lines, the intricate notes, the architecture of our supposed future. A future she was willing to trade for a status symbol. The sadness hit me like a weight pressing down on my chest. It was grief for the woman I thought I'd married. But then I'd glance at her text again. I've earned it. And the grief would recede, replaced by something colder, clearer. The foundation was compromised. It was time for a structural assessment. 6 days passed. The initial silence from Jennifer's end was smug, I'm sure. She'd fired her shot and was waiting for my inevitable surrender. The first sign of trouble for her would have been small. A loading screen that never finished, a streaming app asking for a password she didn't have. The call came Friday night. Not from her, from Robert, her father. "Michael, good, you picked up." His voice carried that false warmth that always set my teeth on edge. "Listen, I think we've got a little misunderstanding that's gotten out of hand." "I'm not sure what there is to misunderstand, Robert," I said evenly. "Don't be difficult, son. Jennifer's here all torn up. Says her phone's acting up, says you're being cold. I'm calling man to get this sorted. We need to get her back home." There it was, man to man. The condescending tone of a man who still saw his 35-year-old daughter as a prize to be managed, transferred from his care to mine. "Her phone makes and receives calls perfectly," I replied, "and she's welcome to come home the moment she decides to." A pause. Then a sigh, calculated and patient. "Look, she's a sensitive woman. You know that. She just wants to feel appreciated. A new car isn't a big ask for a man in your position. Her mother and I have always provided for her, and we expected her husband to continue that." The philosophy of her entire family laid bare. She wasn't my partner. She was a dependent whose care had been transferred from one man to another. "My position," I said, my voice hardening, "is as her husband in a partnership built on respect. Ultimatums are not respect. Holding our marriage hostage is not respect, and frankly, Robert, you encouraging this behavior is the furthest thing from respect I can imagine." The warmth vanished instantly. "You watch your tone. We are her family. We're helping her get what she's owed." "What she's owed," I said, "is an adult conversation with her husband, which I'm happy to have. Alone, without a list of demands and without her family acting as enforcers. This is the last time I will discuss my marriage with you. Jennifer has my number." I hung up. My hands were steady. I felt a strange, chilling clarity wash over me. This wasn't a tantrum. It was a tactic, one her parents had taught her. They genuinely believed this was how you negotiated a marriage. They'd misjudged their opponent. They saw me as quiet, accommodating, easy to manage. They didn't understand that an architect's greatest strength is patience. They wanted a quick fight. I was preparing for a siege. The next morning, I didn't just email a divorce attorney. I booked a full consultation for the following week. It was time to get a professional assessment of the damage. A week after the call with Robert, they escalated. I came home from a site visit to find a gleaming black sedan in my driveway. Robert and Barbara's. The front door opened before I reached the porch. Jennifer stood there, flanked by her parents, her face set in serene confidence. "Michael," she said, as if summoning a subordinate. "We need to talk, now." I stopped on the walkway. "I agree. We can talk after your parents leave." Barbara stepped forward, her smile thin and sharp as a blade. "Nonsense, Michael. We're here as mediators to ensure a productive outcome." "This isn't mediation, it's an ambush," I said, my eyes on Jennifer. "I made my terms clear to your father, you and I, alone." "Don't be so dramatic," Jennifer shot back, her composure fraying at the edges. "I'm not going in there alone with you. You've been hostile, and frankly, you're scaring me." The accusation was so absurd, so transparently manipulative, I almost laughed. I've sent one text message in 2 weeks, but if you feel you need protection, that speaks volumes. You have 1 minute for your parents to return to their car, or this conversation is over before it begins. Robert started to puff up, but Jennifer, seeing the finality in my expression, waved him off. "Fine, wait in the car." They retreated, their glares promising consequences. Jennifer swept past me into the house. "I cannot believe the petty, childish games you're playing," she began, her voice rising. "My data, my shows, my subscription boxes, it's financial abuse." "Is it?" I asked, closing the door behind us. "Or is it me ceasing to fund the luxuries of someone who has abandoned our home and our partnership? You're free to pay for your own entertainment, Jennifer." "With what money? You know what I make." "You're supposed to be my husband, and you're supposed to be my wife." I gestured toward my office, where the blueprints still hung on the wall. "The money you want to spend on a car is the same money we allocated for our house." Her eyes followed my gesture, and she scoffed, a guttural sound of pure derision. "Oh, please, don't start with your silly little drawings, that ridiculous dream house. It was never going to happen, Michael. It was just your hobby to keep you busy. My hobby. Years of our shared future, the very soul of our financial and emotional planning, dismissed as a pastime." That single sentence cut deeper than any ultimatum. Before I could respond, she stormed into the office. "I'm taking my things." She grabbed her designer handbag, her laptop. Then she started pulling my first edition architecture books from the shelf, shoving them into a tote bag. "Those are mine, Jennifer." My voice was dangerously low. "Consider them collateral," she sneered. Then she reached for the corkboard and unpinned the main elevation drawing, the one I'd hand-drawn on expensive vellum. "I'll take this as a reminder of all your empty promises." In a moment of pure vindictive rage, she began to fold it, not carefully, cruelly, crumpling the delicate paper, destroying hours of meticulous work. The man who loved her vanished. The husband who was grieving ceased to exist. All that remained was the architect watching someone demolish his life's work. I didn't shout. I stepped back, phone already in hand, and dialed 911. "Yes," I said calmly, my eyes locked on Jennifer's horrified face. "I'd like to report a domestic disturbance. My estranged wife, who has not lived here for 2 weeks, has entered my home under false pretenses and is destroying and attempting to steal my personal and professional property." Jennifer froze, the crumpled drawing falling from her limp fingers. "No, there are no weapons," I continued, "but she is acting erratically, and her parents are waiting outside. I am concerned the situation could escalate. Please send a unit to keep the peace." I used their language, keep the peace. I wasn't asking them to be judge and jury. I was asking them to be witnesses. The game had changed. It's now been 5 months since the ambush. To those who think the 911 call was some kind of magic solution, let me assure you it was not. It was merely the opening move in a long, grueling game of chess. The police arrived as I expected. They were cautious, professional, and their expressions tightened the moment Jennifer said, "I'm his wife. This is my house." They immediately declared it a civil matter. They didn't take my side or hers, but my strategy worked. I was calm. I had the phone log showing my request for her parents to leave. I pointed to the crumpled drawing, to the books in her bag, not as a theft victim, but as the reason for the disturbance. Jennifer, meanwhile, was hysterical, alternating between tears and accusations. Her parents rushing in only made things worse. The officers did what they were trained to do. They de-escalated. They separated us. They documented everything in a neutral incident report. The report stated the facts. Parties are married, but female party has been residing at parent's address for 2 weeks. Dispute arose over male party's personal property. Parties separated for the evening. It wasn't a criminal charge. It was better. It was a formal, third-party record of her instability and the exact timeline of our separation. My lawyer called it a perfectly preserved snapshot of the marital breakdown. The weeks that followed were hell. Jennifer lawyered up, and the demands began. Her attorney, a shark in a silk suit, painted me as controlling, abusive, a monster. They filed for temporary orders demanding exorbitant spousal support, exclusive use of the house, and a laundry list of other absurdities. We ended up before a family court judge for a temporary hearing. Jennifer, coached to perfection, played the victim. My lawyer simply presented the facts. Her text message ultimatum, my calm response, the incident report, and my financial record showing the canceled luxuries versus her demand for a $70,000 car. The judge was not swayed by her theatrics. He was a pragmatist. He did not grant her the house. He did, however, award her temporary spousal support, a significant monthly amount that made my stomach turn. "She is your wife and has a lower earning capacity," he said flatly. "Until this is finalized, you will support her." This was her first win, and she and her family treated it like a lottery victory. This is where their entitlement became my greatest weapon. Jennifer's lawyer arranged a civil standby where a police officer chaperoned her to collect her belongings. She took everything she could, but under the officer's watchful eye, she couldn't touch my books, my office, or my equipment. The following months were a slog of legal paperwork, discovery, where we exchanged every financial document, a failed mediation, where she and her lawyer refused any offer that didn't include a massive payout and the mythical SUV. All the while, I paid the court-ordered support, and I watched. Her social media, which she foolishly left public, became a chronicle of poor judgment. Expensive dinners with friends, new designer clothes, a weekend trip to a spa. She wasn't banking the support money or planning for her future. She was desperately trying to maintain the facade of a lifestyle she felt she was owed, burning through my money as revenge. My lawyer had me documenting every post. The foundation was crumbling, but not mine, hers. It has been 10 months since Jennifer texted me that ultimatum. Last week, the judge signed the final decree. The structure is demolished. The site is cleared. The turning point wasn't a single dramatic moment in court. It was the slow, methodical accumulation of evidence. The final settlement negotiations were brutal. Her lawyer came in high, demanding a massive portion of my retirement savings and permanent alimony. My lawyer didn't argue. He simply laid out his case on the table. Exhibit A, the initial text message. Exhibit B, the police incident report, establishing her as the instigator. Exhibit C, a detailed log of her social media posts, cross-referenced with her bank statements obtained in discovery, showing she'd spent nearly all of the $20,000 in temporary support on non-essential luxury items. Exhibit D, her refusal to seek full-time employment, despite the judge's recommendation at the temporary hearing. My lawyer argued that Jennifer wasn't seeking support for her needs. She was demanding funding for her wants, a lifestyle she'd made no effort to contribute to or sustain herself. Her behavior, he stated, demonstrated a consistent pattern of financial irresponsibility and a refusal to negotiate in good faith. The fight went out of them. They knew if this went to trial, she would be torn apart on the stand. We settled. The terms were these. The marriage was short enough that permanent alimony was off the table. She was awarded a brief period of rehabilitative alimony, far less than she'd been getting. We sold the house, as is common, and split the equity. After legal fees, her share was significant but nowhere near life-changing. She kept her car and her personal belongings. I kept my books, my professional assets, my retirement accounts, and my savings. The aftermath has been a study in natural consequences. Jennifer's winnings were quickly consumed by her legal bills and the deposit on a small, expensive apartment. The rehabilitative alimony helps, but it doesn't support her old lifestyle. The friends she was brunching with have faded now that she can't keep up. She had to get a full-time job, not at a chic gallery, but in retail. She lives alone. Her parents, having spent a small fortune on her lawyer, have apparently adopted a new policy of tough love. Robert and Barbara didn't get their daughter a new SUV. They got a front-row seat to the consequences of their own enabling philosophy. As for me, the quiet in my new, smaller place is no longer lonely. It's peaceful. It's the silence of a cleared building site, ready for something new. I kept the crumpled architectural drawing. I had it professionally flattened and framed. It hangs in my new office now, not as a monument to a broken dream, but as a blueprint of a vital lesson learned. You cannot build a shared future on a faulty foundation. It will always collapse. Last month, I put a down payment on that small plot of land. It's all mine. The new plans I'm drawing are more modest, but the foundation is impeccable.